Hi, I'm Craig. It's my brother Brad. Welcome to Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Life is hard, but you can't give up. Let's have a conversation. Weekdays, we're gonna make it today. Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Episode 61. Here we go, Brad. We made it.
Yeah, 61 episodes down.
Not canceled yet. You
5,000 more to go, and maybe we'll be somewhere with this thing.
We'll get there soon enough. It's an exciting night because people say you got to have more guests on. You got to have more guests on. We love when you do guests. And tonight, we have a guest. Brad, introduce our guest.
Craig, what?
I said introduce our guest.
Oh, our guest. Karlyn Borysenko. Did I get it right?
You got it perfect. Well done.
Welcome to the show, Karlyn.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the intro that got me. When I saw you guys' intro I was spying on your YouTube. I was like, that intro is amazing. I have to be on their show.
We got more for you tonight. That's a we got more for you tonight.
It's a big show tonight for us.
Mm-hmm.
We are
a big one.
Thrilled to do this show tonight. This is the big one.
I mean, it's a large one. You know, we're excited every episode. It's a weekly show. Karlyn, can you tell us about yourself before we get going?
Yeah, I'm an organizational psychologist and sometimes quasi-journalist, and I make content on YouTube, and I run my mouth on the internet complaining about all sorts of things, but specifically focused in on woke culture, social justice nonsense. I don't like that stuff at all. It ruined my entire profession, and now I'm taking all my aggression out on YouTube.
Oh yeah, because I noticed on your channel, which we'll include here in a little bit, but it says that you never plan to be a YouTuber.
No, not at all. Not in fact, I didn't even watch YouTube. My husband watched YouTube and he was like, Karlyn, you should watch these people on YouTube. And I was like, no, that's stupid. Why would I waste my time on that? And a year later, here I am.
Here you go.
Everybody at some point in this generation goes, I should get on YouTube.
No, you really shouldn't. No, well, I just posted on Twitter, like right before I came on here. I was like, thank God I didn't do this when I was younger. Like I had a real job. I had built a business. I bought a house. I had gotten married. Like I would have been such a terror on YouTube if I had done it when I was younger. I mean, my God.
Yeah, it's listen, as somebody who literally my entire adult life has been spent on YouTube, it's not the best. It's fun, but it's not the best by all means. And like things have changed so much in the last few years. It's okay. Yeah. Would you like to do the intro for the YouTube comment of the day, Karlyn?
I don't know what that is, but
just say it's time for. Just say that.
It's time for
the YouTube comment of the day. Nice job, Karlyn.
Well, that was something.
Yeah, it's good.
That was an experience.
I know.
You're like, whoa, what did I do?
You're in it today. Listen, this one's from Franklin Brooks. He says, congrats on hitting 60, you two. Definitely look forward to March when the show starts going live on YouTube as well. That's right, because right now we are currently only on twitch.tv/CraigSkits. But Karlyn, soon will be streaming live on both Twitch and on YouTube sooner than later. So congratulations, Franklin Brooks. You win 72 Craig and Brad points. Congratulations. Way to go. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Let's see. So, Karlyn, I guess we should probably get into this thing because you had a very eventful last few days.
I did. And I have to tell you, it was probably one of the most unexpected things of my life, second only to when I went viral on the internet for being a Democrat that went to a Trump rally. But this was even more viral and probably even more unexpected, to be honest.
Wow. Would you like to tell us a little about it? Because I know. Yeah. So just so we're all on the same page. Like I always try. I try as much as people don't want to hear this. I try to always be the other side of the argument. And historically, for me, that has been not great because people on all sides think that I'm on the other side, right? When in the reality is I don't have a side, right? In this whole thing. But this was fascinating to see. So by all means. Tell us the expose.
Yeah, well, okay, so a little bit of background. Like I said, like I'm an organizational psychologist. I did corporate training for a living before COVID and being on YouTube kind of destroyed my business, and I hope to get back to it someday. But like I have a lot of experience with this. And what happened after especially George Floyd's death is that social justice took over my industry, and it was no longer possible to do non-woke training. Woke training was all organizations wanted. So I really started talking a lot about it and doing a lot of videos about it. And people would just send me these whistleblower documents of like crazy things going on in their company and crazy trainings they were doing. Well, the most recent person that sent me an example of this came on Friday. And it was a Coca-Cola employee that sent me these images of a training that they were asked to do by their manager saying, try to be less white. And I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of crazy trainings. I had never quite seen one this overt and this crazy, where it's based on Robin DiAngelo, who's the author of White Fragility. She's a racist white lady that basically wrote a 150-page confession about being racist and now assumes that all other white people are racist as well. And she's got a course up on LinkedIn Learning that Coca-Cola apparently is using for their employee training. So I got a hold of some images. I posted them on Twitter. I didn't really think much was going to happen with it because I post images like this all the time. And a day later, it has over 21 million views on that one tweet.
Jeez Louise.
I think the most striking thing, because I saw this like early on when you posted it, and I retweeted it like so many others did, because the most striking slide is be less white.
Try to be less white.
Try to be less white. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
There it is.
gosh.
There it is. You can't get more
Excuse-
overt than that.
they needed a whole slide for this one.
Well, but you say they. It's just one woman, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just Robin DiAngelo.
Okay. So really quick, what is her like? What are her credentials? Why is everybody listening to her?
I don't know why people listen to her. This is the most bizarre thing in the world. Robin DiAngelo has basically created an entire industry for herself in which she convinces white people that they are racist. And she gets paid tens of thousands of dollars to go around the country and do these corporate trainings to convince white people they are racist. I don't know why people listen to her. She's not an organizational psychologist like I am. She's not any of those things. I believe her PhD is in whiteness studies or something like that. She wrote the book. Yeah.
That's a real thing?
That's a real thing. Yeah. In higher education, you can get a PhD in basically whatever you want.
I have a mastery in that. I've lived it for 39 years. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, who knew you could make $40,000 a training by teaching people how not to be white? But no, she wrote a best-selling book. It was the best-selling book all throughout the summer called White Fragility. Now, if you actually read White Fragility, which I did, and it nearly broke me, you actually see in the reference section that she doesn't have a whole lot of academic references to support her work, basically because it's just a confession about being racist. But for some reason, I don't understand why all of my friends started reading White Fragility and demanding I read White Fragility over the summer. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Like, it's a bad book. It will drive you crazy.
Give me the Cliff Notes version so nobody has to read White Fragility.
Okay. I know you guys are trying to be less white, but you're both white, right?
Look at this podcast. Golly.
Well, but okay, so you're racist. The end. That's what the entire book says.
Yeah.
If you are white, you are racist.
There's nothing I can do, right?
No.
And it doesn't matter what I've thought, anything good I've ever done in my life, my perspective on how I treat people.
No.
I just am. End of story. I got to deal with it. There's nothing I can do the rest of my life to fix this.
Bring up those slides again. Bring up the because I'll show you exactly where she goes. So go back this one right here. So this is the crux of her book. In the United States and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel they are inherently superior because they are white. So what Robin DiAngelo literally says in White Fragility is that she has been racist since the womb. That is an actual quote from the book. She was racist before she was even born, and she will be racist all of her life. And she feels very lucky that her coworkers of color forgive her for the racist mistakes that she makes. And she doesn't like going to potlucks with black people either. That makes her very nervous.
She doesn't like doing that?
No, there's a whole story in White Fragility about how she was going to this potluck at this park one day, and there were two different families having a potluck that day, and one of them was mostly white and one of them was black, and she was really scared that the potluck that she had to go to was going to be the one with the black family, which, like, why wouldn't you know who you're going to a potluck with, first of all? But B, even if it was the black group, like, why would you be afraid of eating dinner with black people? I don't understand.
Mhm.
Can I just say what we're all thinking here? Like, it sounds like a her problem.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I was just
Right.
thinking. I was like,
Like-
this sounds like it's your problem.
Now, there's extreme irony here, and behind the story I'm about to tell. But like 20 years ago, long time ago, I actually worked for Coke. Right, and I was a part of their. Well, here's the best thing about it, though. I worked for Coke. And I was part of their road activation team. I was like the young guy. I'd go out and we'd put on music and we'd go shoot baskets and get in the community and stuff like that. And it was like super fun. And we would go to all these events in the inner city. And they were the best. They were the most fun. I loved it. I loved everything about it. We went to a family reunion and there wasn't a white guy within 5 miles. And you know what? It was the most fun. They treated us like family. We felt like we legitimately left there. And every year we would go to this. I did it for like 4 years. And every year we went to the same family's reunion. It was like 100 people. And every year they're like, oh, it's Greg and Tom. Yeah. And it was just like going back, and we eventually became part of their family. How can you not want to go to a potluck, period? That's, oh my gosh. Sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Robin DiAngelo would say that you just tokenized all of those people that you had those wonderful times with. And you did that because you're white. And the only reason that you went to those family reunions is because you want to feel superior and exert power over everyone that is not white at the family reunion.
Well, the irony is that Coke paid me to be there. So technically, I guess.
Well, that's
Coke
even worse.
Mhm.
That's even worse. You profited off your whiteness. That's like extra racist.
Wasn't it racist of Coke then to send a white guy to that city?
Why did Coke have polar bears as their mascot for years? Coke is doing penance right now for their previous racist. Why did they take vanilla Coke off the market? This is what I want to know.
Oh gosh. See, I when I saw the try to be less white slide that you had shared, the first thing that came to my mind was and I tweeted this at you. I said, there seems to be a very, very, very fine line between being less white and stepping into cultural appropriation. So which side, where do we fit in, right?
Actually, go to my Twitter right now, because I literally just tweeted something about an hour ago that answers this specific question.
There you go.
It'll be right up at the top. There it is, right there. There it is, right there. No, Maj, no, the one below that. Hang on.
Oh, the button. It was the image.
A different one. The button. That's it. That's it right there.
Which button are we going to choose now?
Yeah, be less white or acting black is cultural appropriation. I mean, listen, I think that this is actually the epitome of what Robin DiAngelo stands for right here, which is that there is no winning.
Right.
There is no winning for white people. There is nothing that you can do that is correct. And that's actually part of the problem with white fragility, because it is unfalsifiable. Now, in the land of academia, before it went crazy, there was this concept that, if you had a theory, you had to be able to disprove that theory in order for that theory to gain any traction, right? White fragility, you cannot disprove. It is a Kafka trap. If you try to argue against white fragility or push back on it, they say, that's your white fragility showing. It's a giant circle all day, every day. When I first started getting into this stuff, all of my friends went woke at the same time, and people that I'd known for years and years and years just started acting like pod people, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And one of them, a guy I had always had really good relationships with, we'd always had good conversations, he started dating a black SJW and then started telling me all the time, Karlyn, shut up and listen to black people. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. But he was hammering me with this. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to shut up and listen to black people. And I started listening to this black diversity trainer that was talking about all this stuff. And she said, white people need to stop telling other white people to shut up and listen to black people. And so I went back to my friend and I was like, listen, I listened to black people. I did what you told me to do. And she told me that you need to stop doing that. And you know what he said? Well, Karlyn, you're just tokenizing her. You found the one black person that would say that.
Oh, what a labyrinth.
It's like,
You
okay, I
can't
quit.
get out of
There's
it.
no
Yeah,
winning. There's
there's
no winning.
no winning. Yeah, that is crazy. The slide here, Craig, pull up the one that says "to be less white is to," and then it gives you
on the previous tweets.
on
Yes.
the main one.
You got it.
Let's walk through these if we can chat about these.
I think, before we get into this really quick, I would just like to point out I was doing research for tonight's show, Karlyn, and one of the things, listen, research. My big thing is I try to be my own journalist, right? Sometimes there are other times where I don't, right? But this is one of those cases I felt like I needed to be my own journalist. So I went in and I actually watched the preview of this course, right? And have you watched this, Karlyn?
I have not, because I know what it says, and I'm deadly serious when I say reading White Fragility nearly broke me. So I try not to engage with this stuff.
That's great. Well, I understand it. So
I'm glad you took one for the team.
Well, here it is. So triggers. So my thing about any of this stuff is that if you were to place one color with another color, it immediately becomes the most racist thing in the world, right? So these statements here, triggers that set off, I'm just saying defensiveness around the topic of racism include, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty simple, suggesting that being insert color or race has meaning, or generalizing about insert race or color. You would think that would stand true to truly any race or color, that if you were doing generalization or suggesting the meaning of being a certain race or color, that would absolutely cause some sort of defensiveness in the whole idea. So I just feel like there's numbers of flaws attached to this logic, and I don't know if I'm being abundantly clear on that, but it just appears that way.
It's your White Fragility showing.
Oh, thanks.
There's just no winning. No matter which door you walk through, you're evil.
In her book, she actually has a chapter, I believe it's like either chapter 9 or 10, called White Woman's Tears, in which she talks about how when she does these trainings in organizations, white women end up crying, and how you should always ignore white women who are crying because they're just trying to play powerful with the situation to gain their power back or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, El Reno in the chat says, I feel like we're accidentally racist after all this.
Oh, if you're white, you're already racist, and there's nothing you can do about it. So just lean into it. Accept the label.
Well, Chancho says that as part Mexican and part Arab, this is racist. You cannot fix racism with racism. Oh man, that's good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So you wanted to go back to the slides.
I just wanted us to read them because it's just so, it twists your mind to have to read this stuff and then go, how am I doing any of this? Most people would read this and just be like, I'm not any of those things. Why would I have to worry about this? And to be less oppressive, to be less arrogant, be less certain. Like, what is that? Be less certain about what? Be less defensive, be less ignorant. They're just like these general sort of weird statements. I feel like, I don't know, listen, believe,
smile more.
Well, you know what's funny and what they're actually doing though. So I do trainings based on like what your work communication styles are, and essentially there is one specific communication style. It's called the dominant style. I use the DISC model. It's the big D style, which take any way that you will. But that style in the workplace is generally associated with like the mean CEO, the mean boss. But that's like the style that gets stuff done a lot of times. What Robin DiAngelo has effectively done is taken her grievances with one specific type of communication style that we normally attribute to people in powerful positions, and she's taken that to generalize it to all white people forever. And so that's where all that stuff comes from.
Tattoo Games real quick comes in and says, it's scary to know stuff like this could cause another race segregation again.
Oh, well, it already is. It already is. So when these trainings are done in organizations, what happens is they separate the white employees from all the non-white employees, and they take the white employees, I'm not kidding, they take the white employees aside and they make them write letters of apology for their inherent racism to the non-white employees.
And this is a LinkedIn training, right? This is available on LinkedIn, and it's available for many other companies to tap into and use in their own companies, right? There's a lot of
yeah.
other big companies using this training right now.
There are, and this is the part of the story that I think honestly has gotten the least amount of coverage, but it was what I actually think is the most important. I don't think it's important that Coca-Cola is using this training. I mean, it kind of sucks, and I
Mhm.
don't want them to use it, but the fact is that there are thousands and thousands of companies that are using LinkedIn Learning as their internal training platform, and there are probably thousands and thousands of companies that have also required this training of their employees. And that's what we should be looking at is like, why did LinkedIn allow this training to be on their platform? And how many thousands of dollars have they paid Robin DiAngelo to teach white people how to be racist? And B, how many other companies are using this and who are they? That's the question.
Mhm.
It's funny. Aiden comes in and says the people who fought for civil rights in the 60s are rolling over in their graves right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know,
go back to that time, and you're just like, we've reversed all of that
it's
at this
fascinating. You know, it's funny. You mentioned the idea of what the media has covered on this. And I once again, doing a little research, I thought I'd do a little digging to see what are the main outlets were saying, you know, the traditional main media outlets were saying about this. And I did the same Google search. You know, I think the main tagline for this is just "be less white," right?
Mm-hmm.
So I simply Googled the name of the outlet and then Coke "be less white" to see what I can find. And what you're going to see is that I actually found nothing on any of these outlets, nothing on CNN, nothing on NBC, nothing on ABC. This is on MSN. And even on Fox News, I actually went down and looked, which I thought for sure there would be something.
I am actually going to be on Fox News tomorrow, so they are covering it. I'm going to be on like their late night show or anything, so I'm not going to be on like Tucker Carlson or anything like that. But they're at least covering it. But yeah, I mean, this stuff doesn't get coverage in the media because they're all in cahoots on this. They love this stuff. Robin DiAngelo is their darling.
So you shared this, and then who started sharing it from your account that started making this thing bubble up?
It was almost immediate, to be honest. Like, and I knew it was going to get attention. I was not expecting it to get that much attention. I think when it really started rolling was Ben Shapiro retweeted it, and then Candace Owens retweeted it, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene retweeted it, and Don Jr. was obviously the big one. Don Jr. retweeted it as well. So it got mentions from pretty much like every major conservative influencer.
Mm-hmm.
And it also confirmed, you know, obviously there was a lot of talk of like, you know, how could this potentially be? This can't even, there's no way Coke could actually do this. And, you know, screenshots on the internet can be manipulated and stuff. But sure enough, Coke then later confirmed the training.
Well, what's funny is Coke actually issued two different statements. So this article is about the first statement that they issued that basically said, yeah, this training is happening, but it's not the central focus. But then they issued a different statement a couple hours later, basically denying the whole thing and denying that they were ever requiring this training. But I have an email from a different Coke employee that clearly says that this diversity training was required, not the specific one, but whatever lesson plan there is. And I'm trying to get more concrete. I'm basically trying to get someone to send me a screenshot of their internal training portal right now,
Right.
which may have already been updated based on all of the attention that they're getting. But I have a number of insiders in Coca-Cola right now who are sending me stuff. But admittedly, they're a little scared. I think that none of them expected this much. They wanted it to get coverage. I don't think anyone expected it to blow up like this.
Were you nervous at first when you put it up? Like, did you think, well, what if this ends up not being real for whatever reason? Or, you know, because I started thinking about your story sharing this yesterday because you were starting to talk about how, oh, it's trending now, but now it's not. They took it away, and Coke was trending for a little bit yesterday on Twitter, right?
It was. It actually kept going away and coming back and then going away and coming back. So I think Twitter at some point pulled it down, and then I don't know what happened, but it definitely came back later in the evening. But no, I
Mhm.
mean, for me, I did due diligence before I posted it. I knew where it had come from.
Mhm.
I had talked with the employees. It's not like, just some random guy emailed me pictures and I took it
Mhm.
for, absolute gold. I actually talked to
Mhm.
them, and, I wanted to make sure that they were okay with me sharing it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I also looked at the training. So, I mean, I wasn't worried about it, and I'm still not in any way worried about it. I think I had a lot more fun with it than anything. It was one of those things that was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then to see all the memes coming out from it, that was the best. To see the memes that people made, someone edited a whole Coke commercial about it. I mean, you can't pay for this type of stuff. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
You're
And
like,
I
"I did that."
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's so cool. And the thing of it is too is like I'm so happy that people are actually talking about this training because, I said in one of my videos, I feel like I've been screaming about this stuff for the better part of a year into the void and no one's paying attention to it. Well, they're paying attention now.
Mhm.
Do you think that anything is actually going to change when it comes to cocoa? Is
Um
this just a blip on the radar?
I don't think, like I said, I don't think that this really matters for Coke. I think the bigger picture is that it means a lot that it went this viral because that means that average everyday people are waking up to this nonsense because we are in a really precarious situation. I'm not messing around. This type of training hurts people. It hurts people emotionally. It makes them hate themselves. It's not only in corporations, it's also in the schools. Teachers are teaching children as young as 5 that they are racist because of the color of their skin. They're teaching them to hate their parents. With students who are biracial, mixed race, whatever, there are actually teacher training programs that teach that those students should not identify with the white part of themselves, only with the non-white part of themselves. This is all incredibly dangerous, and the more daylight that gets shed on this stuff, the better we're going to be able to fix it.
Health Warrior said in the chat, says, "Guys, I would love if you had some people of color on the interview to see what they think about this. I would love to do that. I would absolutely love that." Speaking of, Karlyn, have you seen any feedback from people of color on this, being like, this is something that absolutely needs to happen. I don't know why people are so upset about this.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'll give you both sides of what I've seen. Obviously with people who are more like right-leaning or free thinkers or whatever, they think that this is racist. I mean, Candace Owens is black. As it turns out, she is actually black in real life. She doesn't like this sort of thing. So I've gotten great feedback from people of color, but I mean, listen, there have also been many of them that have brought up the very fair point that black people are told all the time to be less black at work or this is something that they hear quite commonly, and that's just as racist. That should not be happening either. If I heard that happening, I would tell the person saying it to cut it the flip out. But if you're against it happening in one circumstance, you should be against it happening in all circumstances because it's not any less racist just because it's directed in one direction and not the other. If any company had released a training saying try to be less black, their headquarters would be destroyed. It would be burnt down by Black Lives Matter, and I don't think any of us have any doubt about that.
Mhm.
Do you when it comes to just the overall argument of like, look, it needs to be an even bar for everybody, right?
Mhm.
And then you go back to the lady, I keep forgetting her name, Robin DiAngelo, right?
Robin.
Yes, with Robin DiAngelo. Does she feel like there should be different bars based off of your skin color? And if so, isn't that just the most basic horrible form of racism you could possibly have? Like, isn't that
Yeah.
the whole? Yeah,
I mean, what this stuff sets it's hilarious though because I mean the white saviors that buy into this stuff that buy into white fragility, they're some of the worst racists of them all because what did Joe Biden say the other day? Black people don't know how to use the internet. Of course, black people know how to use the internet. Do you guys catch that? Like
I
it
did.
like it's absolutely insane. So it's the bigotry of low expectations, and I don't understand like white people who say like black people don't know how to have an ID and that's why we can't have voter ID. Of course black people know how to have an ID. Like you need an ID to do almost anything. And so that this is part of the problem with this is how much like these white saviors underestimate anyone who's not white. If there's anything racist in this entire discussion, it is that.
Real quick, Smartlight wants to point out that that's not what he said. That's what Smartlight's saying in the chat. So I'm actually going to pull up exactly what President Biden said, so we can all be on the same page. So we always offer like a contradictory view of what we're talking about, because I think conversation is something that doesn't happen on the internet a whole lot, and we welcome open conversation on the podcast. So, man. Yeah.
Dr. Karlyn, have you received angry messages since yesterday or 2 days ago, I guess? People mad at you for sharing this?
Yeah, I mean a couple, but not really anything. I get angry messages all the time. So yeah, I received a couple messages calling me a racist and, whoop-de-doo. I actually received a couple messages from people who were just totally confused and thought that I was advocating for this type of training and that I was executing it. And one person emailed into my business website and it's like, "Why are you employing this person?" And I was like, well, so I mean, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah. Good.
Would you like to hear a story?
Let's hear a story, Craig.
I've never actually told this story online, and I just feel like this story actually really relates to what we're talking about right here. Obviously the idea of skin color. To me, I apparently am racist because I treat people like people, right? It is what it is, and but I recently. I had a company reach out to me to do a hosting job for them. And we had everything lined up, ready to go. It was going to be a freelance thing. And about a week later, they came back and they actually said, "You know what? We're actually going to go with somebody a little more ethnic than you because you're a white person. And we want to have a person of color as our host." And I said, just so we're clear, it's not my skill set, right? Because I'm fine with this if it's my skill set. If I'm not the personality you're looking for, that's totally fine. But it's strictly my skin color. And he said, "It's strictly your skin color." And I said, "That is incredibly racist." and I actually I've tried. It's funny because I was like, "That's really racist," and all I really want to do is I just want you to hire people based off their merit, not based off of the idea of a certain skin color. And I left it alone. And the person responded to me and they said, "What can we do to make this right?" And I just left it for a week. And I didn't say anything because I was just fuming over this. I was so mad because, like I said, you don't do that. And then he emailed me back a week later and he goes, "Oh, by the way, it was your skill set. It definitely wasn't your skin color."
Oh, okay.
Slipped my mind while we were there.
Because it was actually like, "No, I'm sorry. I spoke with my HR team and I got a little nervous. So I just wanted to cover my tracks really quick."
Yeah.
So I've never actually told that story online. And it was, the Snorlax says, "Can't you sue them for that?" It's funny. I actually went to a lawyer to talk about suing them. Number one, they're a Canadian company, which I think there's different laws. And number two, in his words, he goes, "I would not take this case. Not that you don't have a case, but because the idea of a white man talking about this just doesn't go over with a jury, and you have to win the entire jury." And it was like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've had people that have had this happen to them and have filed complaints and have been literally told by their HR teams, civil rights laws aren't meant to protect you. They're meant to protect people who look like you. I mean, I was having so many conversations with clients of mine over the summer after George Floyd who were literally telling me, "Yeah, we're not hiring white people right now." Like, that's racist. That's
Right.
and listen, like I'm not worried about the future of like the white race or anything like that, but I just think that all of this is very regressive, and I think that it's not going to help fix racism to create more racism.
Well, it's funny. I think that's the most fascinating thing about having these conversations as well, is that when you have these conversations, people then deem you as racist for having the conversation about how this is so bad,
Yeah.
and that's the most fascinating thing about this. By the way, I have pulled up President Biden's speech. If you'd like to hear that now, I'll gladly just so we're all on the same page. I'll let me pull that up really fast. I want to make sure we all. I'm going to pull this up. Oh, here we go.
You're appeasing the chat. It's okay.
Here we go. I love how you can just download things so quick on the internet.
The biggest part of it is access, physical access. That's why last week I opened up, I met with the Black Caucus in the United States Congress and agreed that I would all of the community health centers now, which take care of the toughest of the toughest neighborhoods in terms of illness, they are going to get 1 million doses a week, and with how we're going to move forward, because they're in the neighborhood. Secondly, we have opened up, and I'm making sure that there's doses of vaccine for over 6,700 pharmacies. Because
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah, let's fast
into
forward.
neighborhoods that are hard to get to, because
They don't exactly
people
know
are
where it's at. I'm
for
doing some good
example,
journalism.
Even though everyone is within,
Still better than the New York
not
Times.
likely to be able to walk 5 miles to go get a vaccine.
All right, here we go.
Community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online.
Let me go back here.
The other portion is a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Alright.
sorry. He
African
said
American
they don't know how to
community,
get online, not
particularly
they
in,
don't know how to use the internet. I don't know
rural
that that's a
areas.
big difference.
Right.
I find every time I'm trying to listen to Joe Biden, I do this. I listen in and I squint my eyes, and I'm like,
Mhm. What did he just
"Ooh,"
say?
I just do
What?
it. Yeah.
Biden? Joe
Very
Biden. So I have a fun Joe Biden story. So I live in New Hampshire, and so I got to see all of the Democratic candidates, because I used to be a Democrat. I was a Democrat for 20 years. So I saw all of the Democratic candidates in person when they were running for president. And there was this big event 2 days before the New Hampshire primary in which Joe Biden, in his final closing speech in the New Hampshire primary, and I'm in the building watching this, standing 10 feet away from the dude, in his final closing speech says, I was walking down the street in Manchester, New Hampshire, and there was a kid on the side of the road, and the kid looked cold. So I wanted to help him, and I was wearing a hat, and I said, why are you wearing this hat? And I gave the hat to the kid. And that was Joe Biden's final closing speech before the New Hampshire primary. That was
Wow.
Now he's the president.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sounds very
Yeah.
heroic. That's a great
Thanks,
story.
Jeff. And I think collectively we were all there like, what?
Yeah.
What was that?
I mean, imagine your grandpa telling you this story, and he's like, I saw a kid and he needed a hat, and so I gave him the hat.
Yeah.
And then he just walked off. He'd be
Yeah,
like,
that was exactly what happened.
what? Excuse me?
So real quick, I want to pop this
People are
in.
like,
Ty in the chat says Candace Owens is notoriously anti-LGBTQ, so why are we bringing her up? Because I think everybody's entitled to have their own opinion. Some opinions are good, some opinions are bad, right? Whether you agree with them or not, that doesn't mean you should silence their voice, and that's the whole point of this. We are simply talking about Candace Owens. It was simply brought up Candace Owens and their take on this particular story that we're talking about tonight. There's nothing to do with.
She is black. She should
Yeah.
have a voice regarding whether or not white sensitivity training is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, like it just simply comes down to, I'm not here to silence anyone's voice. Like the idea of this is strictly conversation, so it's very, very simple. You may agree with her, you may not agree with her. That's totally fine. But at the end of the day, everyone has the right to have a voice, and that's the whole idea of this. So.
That's the interesting thing, is that when you find somebody who is black and says, I don't agree with that, why does their opinion not matter?
Mm-hmm.
If all it takes is one, they don't agree, they're black, like, there's an example. What's the end goal here? is my question.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, because it's funny. Like I'm not a conservative. I'm actually still consider myself a liberal. I'm not a conservative by any means. Everyone assumes that I am, but I have so many more like outspoken. This is a horrible thing to say. I have so many more black friends on the right than I ever had when I was like in the Democratic Party, and they're allowed to have opinions, and when they say opinions that are contradictory to this narrative on the left, what always happens is the left tries to tear down their character almost immediately. And it's the saddest thing in the world for me to watch. It's absolutely ridiculous. They should be allowed to think what they think, just like you're allowed to think what you think. If you hate Candace Owens, hey man, more power to you. But it's okay for people to have difference of opinion.
I think that's one of the most fascinating things about this is, as we've done, this is our 61st episode here, and we've talked about some touchy subjects that traditionally aren't talked about. And I don't have a political affiliation. Like people are like, well, this one guy goes, hey, when did Craig become a pro-Trumper or something like that? And I said, how did you gather that? Because we were simply having a conversation. Like I don't lean either way. I just make like go back to we make conversation based off observations. These are simple observations that we're making here. When we talk about COVID or this or whatever, we just try to talk about these things. And when you don't line up with the way certain people think, you get labeled a different way. And it's fascinating because I have 15 years on the internet and I have never shown any sort of that behavior. And somehow, because I don't align with in the last 2-3 years, their thought process, I immediately become the bad guy. And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Everybody's career is interesting because like Craig and I come from an entertainment background. I've been a musician, songwriter for 20 years of my life. I put my heart and soul into music. It's out there. People have heard it. I've got a fan base. I've been a little more vocal in the last year on my personal Facebook page, and it's getting me into a lot of trouble. Now, it doesn't matter what I've said in any of my music, any messages of unity, but it's basically, you'll just shut up and sing your middle of the road music. We don't need to hear your opinion anymore. I find myself in those conversations now where I'm like, well, would you be cheering me on if I was saying something that you agreed with? That would be okay, right?
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring that up because I call out both sides. I generally think that both the right and the left are absolutely insane. And I started
100% agree.
and I think, and the right for me, listen, like I like Donald Trump. I do. I think he's entertaining. I like that he's not against, I like that he's against the establishment, all that stuff. But after the election, the right lost their minds. And I started calling them out a lot more vocally than I had before the election because I wanted Trump to win. That was a fight to have later. And the thing of it is as soon as I started saying stuff that they disagreed with, they did exactly the same thing to me that the left did to me when I went to a Trump rally and said Trump supporters aren't Nazis. So it happens on both sides. And it's like, we all just need to get to a place where people are allowed to have their opinions and we're allowed to disagree. And just because I might disagree with you doesn't make me a bad person, and it doesn't make you a bad person to disagree with me. And the world would be a better place if we just got a lot more comfortable with this.
Health Warrior in the chat has a really good question. And I think this is a question I think we all need to find out, because I have no idea when this is. I have my assumptions, but I don't know. Health Warrior simply says, when did it all start? And we have to start thinking the exact same way. There was a time not too long ago that it was okay to have difference of opinions. And my personal thought on that is when we were all introduced to these bad boys. And then shortly after that, social media, specifically Twitter, Facebook. That's my thought. When you go back to 2008, really, when apps became a little bit more, a bigger part of our life. That's just my personal thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that, it was happening before that, but I think it was made much worse with social media. And especially, oh my gosh, since the 2016 election, I think everyone has just gone off the deep end and everyone has retreated into their silos. And it's like, it's so interesting to me sometimes where that both sides can witness exactly the same event and see two completely different versions of what happened, dependent on what particular echo chamber they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about this before, where I was literally looking at the exact same press conference. Queued up at the exact same second. It was of a Trump press conference, last year or something, and I tweeted it out when I had a Twitter account, which I deleted Twitter, by the way.
Congratulations.
It was such a good move. But the CNN headline read something to the effect of like, Trump does something horrible, and then the Fox one's like, blonde Jesus, does it. It's just total polar opposites. It was just it was fascinating to see just how he's talking about something fairly neutral, but obviously they both are going to take it and sensationalize it either way. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Mhm.
Everyone just needs to calm down. Calm down. It's okay to disagree.
Everybody cool out.
Cool your jets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do we trust now? What do we trust? What is the news that we trust from here on out?
Oh.
Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it Parler? Is it CNN? Is it Fox? Like what Karlyn, what do you feel is the right news source?
It's funny. I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a Black Lives Matter activist actually on my YouTube channel, because I like trying to have conversations that are civil with people that I disagree with.
Good for you.
And he
Amazing
asked
concept.
me, and it was a great
Yeah.
conversation. We went on for like 3 hours. We didn't yell at each other once. It was amazing. But he asked me, he's like, so you watch like OAN and Newsmax? I was like, dude, no, those are right biased. Those are right biased just as much as like CNN and MSNBC are left biased. Like don't take any network's word for it, because they all have a vested interest in continuing to get us to fight each other. That's how they make money, whether they're on the right or the left. So I get my news as much as possible from primary sources. I watch a lot of videos. I read a lot of documents. I have journalists that are actual journalists that I've learned to trust over time, but I don't take any news outlet's word for it.
Mm-hmm. I've said that several times on this show, on several episodes. I go talking about what point our minds change. I'm like, we have decades of history of this mindset of like, well, you can't trust everything you see on TV or read in the media, or don't trust politicians. At some point, it has shifted where one side goes, well, you could trust them. Why would they do anything to why would they lie to us? And it's why are we choosing this? Obviously, if you're putting on one channel or the other, what you're getting.
Yeah.
Right.
You know exactly what you're getting. And this is part of the problem. And I think that, if anyone has not seen the movie on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, like you need to watch that movie to understand what these companies are doing to us. Like the more you can get off of technology, the better your life is going to be.
I've equated that movie to if the cigarette companies in the 1940s and 50s were like, look, our product is going to kill you. All right. But it's essentially the exact same thing that the social media companies are telling us. And the most fascinating thing about that movie was that, they go to each of their former CEOs or their technical people and they go, where's this all going? And every single one of them to a T, civil war, civil war, civil war. And it's like, and they're not even in the same room. It's separate conversations. And that's the most fascinating thing, that they all know where this is going. And is that where we're going? I don't know. But how we can do that, I don't know. Are we in the middle of one right now? I don't know.
I have to tell you, so I was actually in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, and I didn't see any of the violence or anything like that. I only found out about that later, but I was actually terrified for about 2 weeks after that we were going to break out into civil war at any moment with how the left-wing media had ramped everything up to vilify 74 million people as terrorists. I still have concerns about the Democratic Party trying to label everyone that voted for Donald Trump as a domestic terrorist. I have very real concerns about that. And frankly, the way the right is acting is not helping the situation either, because the right dramatically overcorrects anytime the left does something that's crazy. And so, I think that civil war, to be honest, is probably inevitable at this point. And I just hope I'm in, a place where, I live in New Hampshire, so I feel like I'm going to be really out of the fray. And, I'm on the side with the guns too, so I feel some solace in that.
Well, we're in Texas, so.
Oh, you guys got the guns too.
And we may secede by then, so who knows?
We'll be doing our own thing, or we'll all fly to Cancun.
Yeah, we'll see. It's fascinating. Yeah, we'll all just get and go to Cancun. Well, I'll tell you, this has been super fun. Should we I don't know what else should we add to this conversation? Because I feel like we've covered so many different topics, but I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been really really fun. Where do you see this going? Where are we going with this? Are we going to see an increase in companies doing this type of training? Circling back to Coke, is this a big flare in the sky for companies being like, ooh, they got some major blowback there?
No, it's not a flare. It's not a flare because it's been going on for a while. This type of training in organizations has been going on for about 10 years, but not at the degree that it is now. It's only gotten worse. And ever since the George Floyd incident, it's gotten really, really bad. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, there are Trump, while he was still in office, actually issued an executive order to stop this type of training in federal agencies and in all federal contractors, which was awesome. That's actually how he won my vote, because I was going to vote for him as like a protest vote against the Democrats being crazy, but he won my vote when he did that. Sadly, Joe Biden rescinded it on day one, but there are states right now that are trying to ban it on a state level in state agencies and state contractors. And I happen to actually be working on one of those campaigns in New Hampshire, where we just had a hearing last week in the New Hampshire House about this specifically. And I really think that this is the only way that we can start fighting back against this. And for my money, this should not actually be a left or right issue. We should not be spending money and work time, frankly, teaching people that they're racist. There is absolutely no evidence that this works on any organizational level. And so this is a really bad trajectory that we're on. I think it's only going to get worse. I don't know if the American people have the will to fix it, to be honest, because you know what it is? It's kind of like, if you gain a bunch of weight over the course of years, you can't just snap a finger and lose the weight, right? It takes the same amount of years to go back to where you were. And unfortunately, this has been a problem for over 10 years now in corporate America. I don't see it getting fixed overnight.
Interesting stuff for sure. Karlyn,
I wish I had a better message. I do. I wish I had a bright,
you
like,
have a
sunshiny rainbow and unicorns message.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
you have the insight for sure.
Yeah.
Now, Karlyn, this is a very big deal because we've never actually showed this before. But this has been very good conversation, and I actually want to know what those who are watching this on YouTube have to think. So, in part of shooting our podcast up the algorithm, we have a new song tonight, which we're going to play. And during the song, we would like for everybody to post a comment in the comments telling us your thoughts on this or your favorite type of popcorn. When we come back, Karlyn, I'm going to, I have one more question for you. We'll be right back.
I'm Al Gore, the voice of your generation. Young people today, let me ask you this. How can we party? The earth is so big, can we party? I'm Al Gore, the voice of your generation. Party.
That's how it works. There you
That
go.
was something.
I'm
It
so
wasn't-
proud of myself. I'll take credit for that. Thank you very much.
That's a great job, Brad. Okay, I have one last question, and you've alluded to this several times. So for those who don't know Dr. Karlyn here, your actual political history is pretty fascinating. You alluded to this earlier, but I would love for you to go in more in depth about how you started at one party, kind of looked at things, and you realized it wasn't quite what you thought it was, and now you've I guess it's walked away. I guess that's the phrase.
I did. Hang on. I did walk away.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was a Democrat for 20 years, and I was really involved in politics when George W. Bush was in office, and then once Obama got elected, I was like, whew, okay, I don't have to worry about politics anymore. And I kind of turned my brain off to it, and I started just focusing on my career and all that. Well, I was really shocked when Trump got elected. I think I cried when I woke up that morning and it was confirmed by the news that he was going to be the president. And I didn't really deal with that all that well, but I always thought Trump was more funny than anything. Unfortunately, all of my friends lost their minds, and but where it really started kind of breaking down for me was, I'm a knitter. So the thing with like the yarn and the two needles.
Mhm.
And about what is it, like 2 to 3 years ago now, social justice took over my knitting community, and they started running around bullying people who wouldn't like say Black Lives Matter or change the names of their products when they wanted them to, and all this nonsense. Well, when this started happening, I was like, I've politically aligned myself with these people and I'm not like comfortable with that. So it kind of started me on this journey of trying to reach outside my echo chamber. I exposed myself to a lot of different ideas that I disagreed with. I watched Walkaway Town Hall was the very first thing I watched, thinking that I was never going to agree with these heretic Democrats, and I ended up agreeing with a lot of what they had to say. And so I did this for about 6 months, where I watched Ben Shapiro, I watched a lot of Dave Rubin, like all the intellectual dark web people that radicalize people on the internet. And my big graduating exercise was I went to a Donald Trump rally in Manchester, New Hampshire, right before the New Hampshire primary, thinking that these were going to be horrible, deplorable people, and I was really scared and nervous. And it all ended up being fine, and they were completely normal, and they were actually really nice. And that was the moment that when I woke up and red pilled, if you will, about how much the media had lied to me about who these people were.
And that was it, actually being around those people and just being around, the Republican Trump supporter and seeing that they're not all racist, I guess, right?
No, they're not all racist at all. And actually, a couple weeks after that, I went to CPAC last year. I'm actually heading to Florida in a couple days to go to CPAC again this year. And I had all these images in my head about what CPAC was, and like these horrible kind of like frat boy, like Republicans that are going to be running around that I hated when I was in college. And it wasn't like that at all. They're some of the nicest people in the world. They were all really excited that I was there. They were like, oh my God, you're a Democrat. You have an open mind. And so, I don't agree with everything that the right thinks, but of the two sides, they're generally the more open-minded ones at this point. And I just think it's so sad what's happened. I think it's really sad that half of the country has been demonized and frankly emotionally abused by every major institution in this country. They're good people, they're hardworking people. They just have different ideas, and it's okay to have different ideas.
It's crazy.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. When you went to the rally and you experienced this sort of recognition that, I'm not going to get shot here or whatever, and you released the story, did you feel the pendulum swing from the other side to now they're like, where the people on the left or your Democrat friends, were they now mad at you?
Oh, yeah.
For even attending? For even
yeah.
having the open mind to go?
They were mad at me already because I had been posting videos just on my Facebook page of like, I would post something that like Tim Pool said or something like a Dave Rubin interview or something like that. And they would get mad at me just for daring to watch those videos. Mm-hmm. And so when I wrote an article about going to a Trump rally, oh my gosh, I was basically excommunicated from all of my friend groups at that point. I was all of a sudden a Nazi. And then I went one step further because PragerU made a video about my stories. So I have like a 5-minute PragerU video. And that's when I was really a Nazi at that point, was daring to make a video about having an open mind and listening to people that you disagree with. That was not okay in their minds.
Mm-hmm. Pretty fascinating stuff. Pretty fascinating stuff for sure. Well, I'll tell you, our time's about up with you. We don't want to go over the time because you spent so much time with us already, but genuinely appreciate you spending time with us tonight, Dr. Karlyn.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. It's nice to talk to people who aren't always on the right, which tends to be the only people I really talk to nowadays, just because they're the only ones who will talk to me. So I appreciate it, you guys. This was fun. Yeah, for sure. If you'd like to find Dr. Karlyn, you can find her right here. Here's her YouTube channel. Go over and check it out and go watch some of her videos. Oh, I didn't even pull it up. Never mind. Oh, screw me. I'll make sure we put a link in there. Curses. That's okay. Do you want to say your YouTube channel name? Got it. There we go. There it is. There we go. I thought it had it all queued up, but I appreciate everybody watching and listening with open mind. And trust me, let's get Dr. Karlyn up to more and more subscribers, and so she can continue to spread the word about whatever it is she wants to talk about, which is great. So thank you so much for your time, and
Legends watching. Make sure you guys go check her out. And we appreciate you guys popping in. Once again, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you made it this far, make sure you comment. And of course, you can support us over at patreon.com/CraigSkits. Guys, have an excellent day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And if you're watching this right now, you can actually head over to twitch.tv/CraigSkits because I'll be streaming live immediately after this airs over on youtube.com on the premiere. See you guys later. Bye-bye.